Okay, guys, so we have been discussing the previous year prelims question for geography. So now we have this 2011 question. So it's basically from the universe section. So the solar system and all that also comes under the part of geography. So this I've made a nice presentation for you, so as to make it more interactive and so that it easily gets imprinted on your mind. And so you can just read the statements. Although I would recommend, if you have not gone through the questions, I would just recommend that you go through the previous year questions, at least the last 10 years. So I'll be covering all the questions from 2011 to 2022. And so asteroids are small rocky planetoids. You can read this statement carefully. You can pause the video and all. And mostly between the orbits of Jupiter and Mars. So if I try to, this I have done, as I have mentioned before, these are the four techniques that I usually follow for the, I usually follow for the uh, attempt to the question. So this is A stands for accuracy, then L stands for logic, E stands for elimination, and G stands for guess, which should be the last resort. So here, if I apply the so here, asteroids are small rocky planetoids, while comets are formed from frozen gases held together by rocky and metallic material. So this is correct statement. Then asteroids are formed mainly between the orbits of Jupiter and Mars. So Jupiter and Mars, that is known as the asteroid belt, that is commonly found there. Then while comets are found mostly between Venus and Mercury, this is not correct. They are found mostly in the outer part of the solar system, the Kuiper belt and the Oort cloud. I'll give the explanation as well within. Then comets show a perceptible glowing tail while asteroids do not. This is also correct. So if I just go to the answer, so this answer is 1 and 3. So you can see here clearly. So asteroids are small rocky objects. Comets are frozen leftovers. So it's a nice picture also to keep you interested. So we move on to the next. So this is this is the part of the climate, vegetation, and soil. So vegetation, this mangroves serve as a reliable safety hedge against coastal calamities. One point I would like to mention or reiterate is that there might be a possibility that this may overlap with the agriculture or the environment and ecology prelims discussion, because the main thing is geography is a multi-dimensional subject. So it covers, according to me, it covers a lot of aspects, lot of dimensions, and my main aim is to cover each and every aspect without fail. So these mangroves, the mangrove swamp, if you against coastal calamities, so the basic thing that comes to our mind, if you see the options, in option they say about medicinal values, they give shelter and all, but the main thing is that this mangroves are in a transition zone between the land, the rivers, and the oceans, and basically they are well adapted to that particular surroundings, and they have strong roots, and they have they have the characteristics which allow them to survive in salty waters. But the main thing is that they have deep roots. So the soil in which they are present, that is not easily, the roots are not uprooted, the trees, mangroves are not uprooted very easily, and so the soil is held in place. Basically, in coastal calamities like cyclone and all, what happens is, due to the sheer force of the wind and the sheer force of the water, it it obliterates or removes whatever the surroundings are there, whatever the settlements are there, whatever the soil is there. So obviously, if the soil is firmly held by it, so there will be very less probability of erosion. So it will act as a barrier, or it will act as a deterrent for the coastal calamities to inflict greater damage. So if I directly go to the option, so and the mangrove trees do not get uprooted by storms and tides because of their extensive roots. One thing from the another point of view, not only this, you have to remember or remember the mapping where exactly the mangroves are located in India, like here mostly in the deltaic region, Gujarat and Maharashtra, Kerala, this Pichavaram and Koringa and Sundarbans. So these locations are important. Similarly, there is normally confusion between the locations of the coral reefs in and around India. So these to be taken in, have to be taken in mind and deliberated upon or studied carefully. Now this is again from the climate section 2011. So westerlies in southern hemisphere and stronger. Again, if you have read the NCRT, it is a very simple question. The main reason why is that the northern hemisphere has a greater amount of land mass. So these westerlies are a type of prevailing winds. Another example are the easterlies and the trade winds. So these westerlies, if they are obstructed by landmass, so obviously they will get discontinued and they will not be allowed to move freely and swiftly. Whereas on the other hand, in the southern hemisphere, the westerlies will be allowed to move freely, swiftly, whatever the factors like wind currents, whatever the rotation of the earth, the Coriolis force are driving those prevailing winds, they will be very adept and they will be very swift and fast and they will be able to move without hindrance. And just for additional facts, around the latitudes of 40 degrees, they are known as the furious 40s. Then 50 degrees, the shrieking 50. So these, nomenclatures have been given to them. You can easily. And again, Coriolis force is higher in southern hemisphere. This is a very generalized statement. And we know Coriolis force basically is determined by the rotation of the earth and the movement of the wind from one latitude to another. So basically it depends upon these factors and this is nowhere connected to the westerlies. So this option is incorrect. So if I directly go to the answer, so this is the explanation, the one only, this is correct. The northern hemisphere surface is about 40%. This is just stat. You can just pause the video and have a look at the stats if you feel like. And of course, this is where you should know the basics. The not only from the point of view of prelims, but from the point of view of mains also. So we have this equatorial low pressure belt, and the subtropical high pressure belt, the subpolar low pressure belt, and the polar high pressure belt. So there are different cells that are formed. You must be knowing them: the Hadley cell, the mid latitude or the Ferrel cell, and finally the polar cell. So the westerlies are moving in this direction. The trade winds are moving like this. Sorry, the northeast trade winds, the southeast trade winds, and then we have the high pressure too. And similarly in the southern hemisphere. So here you can easily see that in the southern hemisphere, the land mass is very less. Okay, this is again the basics of atmosphere. There are a lot of layers in the atmosphere. So radio communication, it's a very straightforward question. We have a layer among the atmospheric layers is the ionosphere. So obviously the presence of ozone causes it's on the in the stratosphere, the ozone layer. So this is incorrect statement. And radio waves have a very long wavelength. Now for this, you need to go through the basics of the science, the physics part where the spectrum is mentioned. So already we know the Vibgyor. If I write like this indicates the this indicates what the uh, the colors or the visible spectrum of light that are observed in the rainbow particularly. So the important thing is, if you remember this, red has the highest wavelength, and as we go towards the left, the wavelength decreases, and as we go towards the right, the wavelength increases. So here, since the radio waves have very long wavelength, so basically when we come to the TV communication and all, so when I directly go to the answer, it will be better if I if I view here. So here we have the ionosphere is the layer 80 kilometers to 400 kilometers. First we have the bottommost layer is the troposphere, where most of the weather phenomena occur. Then we have the stratosphere, and then above that we have the ionosphere. So if you see, this is the visible light, the visible spectrum. Here it is opposite. So if we but the principle is same. So when we go towards the the red section and further the infrared, so we can see what is the wavelength. That is the distance between two consecutive crests or two consecutive waves. Although it is not a particular uniform wavelength, but you can see here as we go towards the left, the wavelength is decreasing, but the mu or frequency is decreasing. The wavelength is increasing. So here we have the radio, microwaves, the TV waves, and here on the left you can see the periodicity. Because of the periodicity, you can see the cycles per second, they have increased. So frequency mu has increased, whereas the wavelength is decreasing. You can see here the distance is this and the distance is this much. So this basic diagram I happen to come across, and for your reference for future purposes also, you can have a nice look, and this can easily get imprinted on your minds and you can easily remember this. So the answer is 2A only. Of course, this is straightforward option, it can be eliminated.